Knock knock? You'd ask who's there, but you don't know if the sheriff of New York City would play along. When you open the door, you see him toying with the car keys he's holding in his hand. Ready to go, fledgling? You don't feel you are, but you give him a nod nevertheless. Excellent. Stick close. He leads you down to the vehicle he's parked nearby. Once again, he takes the wheel, literally and figuratively. Everything inside is just the way you remember it, down to the rearview mirror reflecting an intense stare of your guide. However, the trip itself feels notably different. The last time Coteries was driving you around, he was forcibly dragging you away from your old life. This time, he's pulling you back into it. Let me tell you how it's gonna go. As I said, I've arranged a meeting between you and your kin. It's gonna take place somewhere you should know very well. I'll watch over you two from a safe distance to make sure you adhere to the rules. You should know those very well, but I'll reiterate just so you can't ever say I didn't warn you. Don't do anything that would violate the masquerade. Don't establish some secret routes of contact. I will know. Do treat it as the last time you two will meet. Take this chance to wrap everything up. Here's your story. You're fine. Found yourself on the crossroads. Decided to radically change your life and move out of the city. Subway's unbearable, the rent is too high, they've heard it all. However, you wouldn't leave for good without saying farewell to the only person you cared about. He gives you a compassionate stare. It's gonna leave a scar, boy. But a true artist knows those are not something to hide, but to display with pride. You're a fresh corpse. People you can meet still leave a mark on you. One night, a long time from now, you'll realize you miss collecting new wounds. The car makes a sudden turn. I'll leave the finer details to you. Just be so kind and don't make me regret it. You can sense he's going out of his way for you, but doesn't try to force you into gratitude by stating it plainly. If you know, you know. He'll see if you were worthy of his aid. We're here. You take a look around to recognize your destination. It's the art parlor, isn't it? He was right. It is a familiar place. It's right next to the exhibition place. The one you met your future sire in. This is where you saw M for the last time. This is where they've last seen poor Lamar. Who knows whatever might have happened to him. That's what your sister's trying to find out. I took the liberty of messaging her in your stead. She's up there, waiting for you to come and explain yourself. He turns off the engine and relaxes comfortably in his seat. You silently leave the car and head straight for the exhibition space. The elevator ride up just doesn't want to end. After what felt like 5 hours, but in reality was closer to 30 seconds, you finally reach your floor. Em is standing there, looking at the paintings. She's trying for carefree, but holding to her bag a little too tightly. When she hears your footsteps, she's startled. Then she sees you, and her eyes immediately fill with tears. She runs up to you and gives you a hearty hug. Damn it, Lamar. Damn it. You stay in her arms, silent for a little while. The bonds of blood run deep. This feels right. You're so cold. What happened to you? You look into her eyes and start searching your heart for a lie that would satisfy her, if only for a little bit. So, you see, I met this man and he was really interested in the art I make, and he was from the other side of the world. You stop mid-sentence. It's perfectly obvious that you're not exactly telling the truth, and her expression makes it obvious she knows. What happened? Lamar, talk to me! All the life-saving work she sent your way, from a job of a concept artist to this very exhibition. I've been losing my mind. Talked to literally everybody I know to ask when was the last time they've seen you. All the time she helped you get your shit together. I've always been honest with you. The least you can do is return the favor. She has. My dog's leaving. This shit's getting too real. She has. And she absolutely deserves to know. But she can't. Kadir's waiting downstairs. Lamar! Her voice startles you. Your first instinct is to run. And, like a beast you've become, you trust it. Lamar? You can't do this. Not now, not like this. She watches as you, kindred, an undying creature in the night, zoom away from her, run into the elevator, and press the ground floor button. Oh, fuck me. This might be the last time you ever see each other. At least look her in the eyes and force yourself to tell her one last thing. I'll contact you one day, and I'll explain everything. She's too stunned to react as the elevator doors close. You slide down the wall, hiding your face in your arms. You find your own priorities disgusting. But what gets you down the most is not the fact you failed to give closure to the only person you cared about. It's more that you failed to make this farewell beautiful. It makes you feel like a failure of an artist. Even with all this newfound power, you still can't express yourself through the canvas of life. You're still stuck in your old ways. But you know Em. She'll take the pain you've caused and use it to make art that resonates, that sells. What if an authentic trauma is the best gift you could find to repay all her generosity? God, you're disgusting. You consider all of those emotional commodities, no wonder you're a failure of an artist. The elevator door's open. Better run while she's still up there. Back to Kadir's car. Once you close the door, he instantly puts his foot on the gas pedal. Walking off the pitch with no regrets? Said everything you had to say? Kadir sighs. Yeah, that's what I gathered from here. I'll keep an eye on this situation. Placate her somehow if she won't stop looking. I've got some well-tested methods. Non-violent, of course. He gives you a good stare through the rearview mirror. You're an artist, aren't you? You nod half-heartedly. So you of all people should know things never work out the way you plan. There always could have been more time to plan. Tools that could help you execute it better. Perfection is just an accident. The only thing you can do is give it your best shot given the circumstance and immediately move on to the next thing. When all is said and done, regret is nothing but narcissism and a waste of time. Sophie, your coterie. Those are the materials you've been given, and they're potent ones. Make the best use of them, so that they might create something more beautiful than your artist tools ever did. And as a side note, I envy you. I wish I still had someone to make my knees feel like jelly. Even when you can't see them anymore, just knowing they're there keeps you in touch with what you once were. The car speeds up to cross an intersection before the light turns red. You give Kadir a good, hard look. Thanks. Doesn't feel like a, how should you call it, very vampire thing to say, but but you say it nevertheless. He's visibly taken aback, with his usually furrowed brow smoothing out for a moment. Then he takes on a serious, slightly sorrowful expression. Don't suck up to me, kid. Mr. Bad Guy's still here. Without a doubt, he will go back to decapitating suckers like you any time now. The car starts slowing down. We're here. You look out the window and see your haven. Take care. I'll see you around. Just pray I don't have to see you too often. You leave the car and start walking to your haven, thinking about Kadir. Can't say you're too fond of him, what with the welcome he gave you and all, but after tonight, you can't say you aren't either. You're gonna need some time to understand him, that's for sure. Oh, okay. God, people were probably commenting all over the last episode, because I just realized the stalker situation and the reporter situation are two things. I completely forgot someone's been stalking me this whole time. I'm a buffoon. I want to talk to someone new. I want to talk. Okay, purely the reason I'm not going for Hope, even though I really want to, is that I'm watching someone do a Let's Play of this game, and he went for Hope. So, actually, let's go talk to Benoit again. And I am changing the voice I gave him last time, because that physically hurt me to edit. You've started to look at churches differently since your last encounter with Benoit. You're not sure what happened inside, but it was unavoidably real. You felt it. When Benoit mentioned that being in the presence of Father Anthony's fate would eventually kill someone like you, an undead being, you believed him. It doesn't seem to be very common, though. In New York, you pass thousands of people every night, and none of them have made you feel so afraid and insignificant. If you were to encounter someone like Father Anthony in the subway or a nightclub, you would know. There are many churches in the 5 boroughs, and you're pretty sure most of them don't contain someone whose faith can touch you in this way. Yet you've become wary. They just might. Still, tonight the cathedral looks as before. A striking landmark, acting as a symbol of faith for people who have no idea that vampires exist in their midst. For them, questions of faith and myth are theoretical or philosophical. For you, those same questions suddenly define the meaning of your new existence. You sneak into the cathedral like an old hand, as if going to church had been a regular part of your life. Inside, the cathedral is almost deserted. You're not sure if you'll be meeting Benoit alone. The idea of feeling Father Anthony's faith on your undead flesh freezes you with terror. Benoit is waiting for you in the front pews of the cathedral, in the exact same spot where you saw Father Anthony. Worried, you approach, but don't feel the touch of faith that shook you before. Benoit nods as you sit next to him in the pew. I thought a lot about our last meeting. There were so many questions, and I'm not sure where I can find the answers. I could tell you some things, but you'll grow quite dissatisfied with me and want to find answers of your own. That quest will never end. You've had some time to think. I'm guessing you found the touch of Father Anthony's faith hard to ignore. For most people, God's presence is a question of faith. When I talk with Father Anthony, it feels like proof. Benoit is fervent, intense as he speaks. It's clear these questions have consumed his existence. Perhaps they'll consume yours, too. I can't get the idea of a divine purpose out of my mind. I know how that feels. It's clear we're here for a reason, but why? Benoit looks around reflexively to make sure nobody's listening. There are only a few people in the enormous cathedral, and they don't seem to be interested in two loners murmuring to each other in the front pew. It might seem like ancient history, things that happened 1,000 years ago, but time works differently for our kind. If the stories are true, there are Methuselahs still in existence who walked the world when Jesus was alive. The only problem is that all the vampires lie. They adjust history to suit their egos. Surely something was written down before the masquerade was established. Of course, the Tremere have many interesting manuscripts in their libraries. I've seen a few. If you had the chance, I recommend looking at them. This is how the story goes. God cursed Cain as punishment for the murder of Abel. Cain walked the night, shunned by humanity, and drank blood to sustain himself. Even from the point of origin, we are damned. However, the story becomes really interesting when we move forward. Cain creates more of our kind, often referred to as the second generation. They lived in the first city, later called Enoch, ruled openly over the city's human inhabitants. I see the first city as Cain's redemption. Cursed by God to wander, he remade himself as a ruler and lawgiver, acting as an immortal shepherd to humanity. Only started to go wrong when the second generation begot the third, and vampires started to run amok. Vampires ruled openly over humans? Yes. According to the stories, Cain was a benevolent and just ruler, using his vast knowledge to bring a new age of prosperity. Of course, those stories were written by vampires. After the first city, Cain largely departs the story. Perhaps he was disheartened by the depredations of his descendants. The antediluvians went on to build a second city, an imitation of the first, but it's doubtful their rule was just. There are people moving in the cathedral, and both you and Benoit have made sure none get close enough to hear you talk. As Benoit goes on, your undead senses detect something that deviates from the normal hubbub of devout mortals, cathedral workers, and tourists. You hear the squeaking wheels of an old wheelchair that hasn't been taken out too often. We've been doing this for 20 years, and still you pull stuff like this, Michael. Why did you bring your sister? Around the field, this is no place for the disabled. The voice is that of an older man, Midwestern, sorry. He sounds exasperated, as if he was rehearsing an argument for the 100th time. She wanted to come. She doesn't get out of the house very often. Besides, you should be grateful, Bobby. We would have never found our new partners without her. The second voice belongs to an old man, too. Fuck! So many old people. It's more intense and still holds echoes of a Russian accent. Yes, because she talked about vampires online. You got your door busted in by the FBI, as I remember. Ooh, no. Not good. We did, sure. But we cleared our misunderstanding and now we're consultants. So quit your griping. Bobby, Michael, play nice. You sound like an old couple. The third voice has a heavier Russian accent. I keep fucking up the voices! Hey. Let's find Father Anthony and see if he can help us. From what I've heard, he's an exceptional man. Yeah, exceptional. But he doesn't like moles. You nudge Benoit and discreetly point out the three people approaching you along the cathedral's central aisle. He nods in understanding. This is bad news, whoever these three are. You need to get out. Let's meet outside. I think this is the first time I've had an option to use my powers, and I'm gonna say no. Better not to call attention to yourself. You decide to move to the side of the cathedral and pretend to pray at an altar. Walk casually towards the side, away from the three approaching mortals. You feel their eyes boring into your back, but you force yourself to be cool. Not that hard for me! Benoit is nowhere to be seen. You blinked and he disappeared in a burst of speed. You're worried it was too conspicuous, but maybe the mortals missed it. You pretend to admire the architecture for a while before glancing back at the trio. They've settled at the exact spot you just occupied, apparently waiting for something, and conversing in hushed tones. Once you're sure their attention is elsewhere, you start walking briskly down the side aisle towards the exit. That was a close call. Who were those three? Did you recognize them? Hey, hold on. Man. I feel like whispering the whole time frame is bad. So, I don't know why. I think it's because I just got Dishonored 2. But I'm gonna give him a Stephen Russell voice. I might have. I'm not sure. There's talk of a few tenacious vampire hunters living in the city. One of them is supposed to be a woman in a wheelchair. Oh, is that Ida? Is that Ida? God, that'd be so cool. For a second, Benoit looks at you as if he was wondering whether he should say something. There's one thing I've always wondered about the story of Cain. The traditions of the Camarilla put a lot of faith in the relationship between sire and child. You're supposed to follow the example of your maker. Yet Cain didn't really seem to care for the vampires he created. Did he think it was a mistake to create our kind? My sire left me. Is that common among the kindred? Yes, unfortunately. The kindred are selfish and cruel. You know, I'm Sophie's child and... Oh, shit! That's Sophie's child, what the fuck? It's amazing that we share an appreciation for the mythologies of our kind, considering Sophie has little interest in questions of the spirit. You stare at Benoit. You knew there was something he wasn't telling you, but in all the talk about Cain and the First City, you forgot about it. Now the only question is, what does this mean? Does Sophie know her child is talking to you? I thought he was the Sombra for some reason. Probably not. Don't hold it against me, but I admit finding some pleasure in seeing you suffer the effects of Father Antony's faith. I suppose that's the demon in me. Fuck you. That was not okay. Do that again, and I'll make sure you regret it. You'll get over it. You know, we should meet again. Talk so much about myth. Or maybe that's cowardly, when the reality of faith is right in front of us. I'll introduce you to Father Anthony. You nod, unsure whether that's a good idea. Benoit walks away, and you follow his example, not wanting to hang around the cathedral any longer.